Well, hey everybody, this is Robert and welcome to Outbreak News TV. Now, we've been keeping a close eye on this Shigella situation linked to a splash park outside of Wichita, Kansas. And on June 20th, this was kind of the first notification that we had. And this is from the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. And they say that they and the Sedgwick County Health Department are in the preliminary stages of investigating several individuals with diarrheal illnesses who had visited Tanganyika Wildlife Park in Goddard, Kansas, just west of Wichita. The health officials became aware of the possible link between the cases on Friday, June 18th, and began the investigation on the same day. And they're saying that if you have experienced any symptoms of fever or diarrhea, vomiting after visiting the park, there's a survey they provided. Anyway, that was very early in the investigation, and it moved on to this. This is the Tanganyika, hopefully I'm saying that properly, Wildlife Park, and this is from the owners. And announcing the closing on their Facebook page. And it says, first, thank you for everyone that posted. Our thoughts and prayers will be with those that are sick or recovering. Second, this situation has been evolving rapidly, and I'm sharing this information as I have it. He says, we are not trying to cover up anything and are taking guidance from the Sedgwick County Health Department. And anyway, big thing here is they were notifying the public of the closure of the park. And this continued, and this was the latest press release from the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. And they gave this update on it. And health officials became aware of the first 3 Shigella cases linked to the park on June 18th. Water samples collected by the health department at the splash park were tested at the CDC. No Shigella bacteria were detected, but coliform and E. coli bacteria were detected in some of the samples. In water sample testing, the presence of these bacteria indicate likely fecal contamination. The water results are a snapshot of water quality on the day the samples were collected. So they say 3 additional people have tested positive for Shigella bacteria, bringing the total cases linked to the park to 6. All 6 cases visited the splash park area on June 11th, 2021. Investigations into other possible linked cases are ongoing. Health officials also identified other diarrheal illnesses among individuals who reported being at the splash park. Individuals have tested positive for norovirus, sapovirus, and a type of E. coli called enteropathogenic E. coli. Investigations are ongoing on whether these illnesses are associated with exposure to the theme park. So that's where we stand as of July 2nd. That's the latest update from Kansas health officials. We have 6 confirmed Shigella cases, and there's a number of people with other types of fecal pathogens. Still not sure if it's directly linked to exposure to the theme park. So what is Shigella? Well, this is from the Mayo Clinic, and Shigella infection, also known as Shigellosis, is an intestinal infection caused by a family of bacteria known as Shigella. The main sign of Shigella infection is diarrhea, which is often bloody. It's very contagious. In fact, Shigella bacteria is resistant to gastric acid, so very small amounts are required to cause an infection. So Shigella organisms, 10 Shigella organisms is enough to cause an infection in a person. You can compare that to, say, Salmonella, which is susceptible to gastric acid. It takes about 100,000 individual organisms to cause an infection. People get infected with Shigella when they come in contact with and swallow small amounts of bacteria from the stool of a person who is infected with Shigella. Children under the age of 5 are most likely to get Shigella infection. However, it can happen to anybody. It typically is self-limiting, so it clears up on its own, usually in about a week, but sometimes, depending on the severity of the infection or the condition of the patient, they may prescribe antibiotics. Symptoms of Shigella usually begin about a day or two after contact with the bacteria. We're talking about diarrhea, often containing blood or mucus. Some strains of Shigella will cause dysentery, which does show the presence of blood and mucus. Stomach cramps, stomach pain, fever, nausea, and vomiting. Symptoms usually last up to a week. Sometimes they may last longer. Mayo Clinic advises that you should see you or your child who has bloody diarrhea that's bad enough to cause weight loss or dehydration should call their doctor. And if there's a fever of 101 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. Infection usually happens when you accidentally swallow Shigella bacteria. By touching your mouth, direct person-to-person contact is a very common way it's spread. Eating contaminated food, that does happen. Food becomes infected with Shigella, particularly if it grows in a field where sewage is present. And by swallowing contaminated water. This happens sometimes when, probably as in the case of the Kansas case, when people are playing or swimming in the water and get it in their mouth. Risk factors of Shigella include being a young child. However, that doesn't mean somebody my age or your age can't get Shigella. Close contact with other people, person-to-person spread. So it's common in like child care centers and nursing homes. Living or traveling in areas that lack sanitation. And men who have sex with men are at higher risk of Shigella activity because of direct or indirect oral anal contact during sexual activity. There are some complications which include dehydration, seizures, rectal prolapse, HUS. This is you probably have heard this associated with E. coli infections, and this is called hemolytic uremic syndrome, and this can lead to hemolytic anemia, low platelet counts, and kidney failure. Reactive arthritis, bloodstream infection. So there's a lot of complications that can go along with a Shigella infection. And let's see, I want to take a look at what the CDC has to say about Shigella concerning diagnosis and treatment. Diagnosis is based on a culture of a person's feces, or maybe a rapid diagnostic test that can, like a PCR test that can detect the genetic material of the bacteria. As I talked about treatment, it's frequently self-limiting, but if you have medical conditions, a weakened immune system, like HIV, or you're on chemotherapy, you may be required to take antibiotics. People with Shigella should drink a lot of fluid, and antibiotics can shorten the period of time of infection. The drugs of choice are ciprofloxacin and azithromycin. These are 2 recommended oral antibiotics. However, there is some antibiotic resistance reported with Shigella infection, so I'm sure your physician or healthcare provider will have a sensitivity done just to make sure. Anyway, and let me go back one slide and talk about prevention. Very important, particularly with the youngsters. There's currently no vaccine that's available. So the prevention is, and should be even when there is a vaccine, good hand washing. If it's a young child, make sure you watch them and make sure they wash their hands properly. Throw away soiled diapers properly. Don't prepare food for others if you have diarrhea. Keep children with diarrhea home from childcare, daycare, etc., school. Avoid swallowing water from ponds, lakes, or untreated pools. Avoid sexual activity with anyone who has diarrhea or recently recovered from diarrhea. And don't go swimming until you have fully recovered. So anyway, so the last update we got from the Kansas Department of Health was July 2nd. So we'll be keeping our eyes peeled for the latest to see what's going on with this outbreak. I guess you can call it an outbreak. So we'll be keeping a close eye on it at this YouTube channel and also at the website outbreaknewstoday.com. And I'll see you next time on Outbreak News TV. Thanks for watching. Share the video. Subscribe to the channel. Like the video. You know the whole thing. But just go ahead and continue supporting the channel the best you can. I appreciate everything that you do. Thanks for watching.